So now we're going to show you how to use the quadratic formula. So the first thing you need is the formula, right? Okay, so the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Don't forget to make that line all the way underneath that stuff. Okay, the next thing you have to do is you have to know what a, b, and c are. So in this case, well, remember, it's going by this general form of a quadratic formula. Oh, I should mention it has to be set to 0. Okay, so I guess that's the second thing. Make sure it's set to 0. Now you got to find a, b, and c. So in our case, a is 1, b is 5, and c is 1. So this is a, b, c. Okay? All right. So I'm going to have the opposite of b, so the opposite of 5, or negative 5. You might say, why don't they just say negative b? They just always say it that way. So the opposite of b plus or minus, then I'm going to take b, and I'm going to square it, minus 4. The 4 is always in the formula. A is 1, and c is 1. All over 2 times 1. A was 1. Okay, so I like to get my formula, get my ABC, make sure it's set to 0, get ABC, put everything in where it goes. Now it's a matter of simplifying. So what I usually do is I simplify the radical. So that's going to be 25 minus 4, and I just do those parts. And then the denominator, I do that multiplication. Then I'm going to do that subtraction inside the radical. So I'm getting, 21 over 2. Now, if the radical can simplify, great, then I would simplify it. If it doesn't, then I'm done. This is done. Okay, so those are the two solutions. You can write them separately. I would write it that way. I don't think I have too much more to say on that problem. So, okay. So that's a good one to do with the quadratic formula. Oh, I guess I could say if you want to write them separately, it would look like that. Oops, plus. I don't know why I have that addition sign in there. That's not what I meant to put. I meant to put a comma. So if you need to write them separately, that's how it looks. And remember that bar there is under both the minus 5 and the radical. Okay, all right, they're there. So here's another one. We're going to do the same thing. It's set to 0, so yay. We're going to get the formula. If you always write it down, you'll remember it eventually. All right, so what is my A? My A is 1. It's right there. My B is 1. And my C is 2. Okay, so now I'm going to put everything where it goes. The opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C. All over 2 times A. All right, let me make sure I got everything in right. A 1 for the B appears in 2 places. A 1 for the A, that appears in 2 places. And then the C, that only appears once. Okay, now we want to simplify this. So negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 8, all over 2. All right, so far so good. We did the squaring. We did the 4 times 1 times 2. Negative 1 plus or minus. Okay, it's 1 minus 8. You don't get to switch it the other way. It's going to be negative 7. A lot of times students are like, I don't want to put the negative. Well, you don't get a choice. It's like it's 1 minus 8. It has to be a negative 7. Okay, now it's a negative 7, right? Okay, that means I'm taking the square root of a negative number, so I need to use I. Okay, now back in the old days when I was a kid, we would leave the answer like that. If they want the answer in a plus bi form, you can write it as negative 1 over 2. I'll do the minus case, minus the square root of 7 over 2i, and negative 1 over 2 plus the square root of 7 over 2i. Those are in a plus bi form. Those answers are both imaginary numbers. So you could write it that way. The square root of 7, 7's prime, it doesn't simplify. Yeah, those are two answers. When the radical simplifies, you have a little bit more to do, but I'll have to see if I can find another example. Okay, those are the answers.